Hello, and welcome to Unsheathed with your hosts, Kyle Gold and Cam Hirosaki. We hope that you enjoy the program. Please stick around afterwards. There'll be cake and blowjobs.
Hi, welcome to Unsheathed, lucky episode 13B. I'm Kyle Gold.
I'm alternate universe Cam Hirosaki.
And somehow beamed from somewhere wherever he was, it's Flain!
Woo!
Yeah.
Whoa.
Welcome.
Try two, let's do this!
Yeah, welcome Flain to the indiscreet disclosed location or undisclosed discreet location or whatever it is.
It's totally a tanker in the Pacific, don't worry about it. Found it out, you can search for it.
We're excited to have Flain here. We're going to do a little, what did we call it? Mixed cast, combo cast.
I like calling them combine-a-casts, but of course we were coming up with terrible versions in the first one where it's like Unsheathed Pod or Pod Sheath Combine. Like,
And I'll form the head.
why do I get the femur? I hate this.
You're not even the real Voltron. You're the one that's made up of vehicles.
Oh, good, Voltron references.
Yeah, I go from Star Wars to the Bible to Voltron to
As most
Miley
men
Cyrus.
do.
0 to 60. So we're gonna do some Anthropodcast features. We're gonna do some Unsheathed features. We got some letters to read about questions about horror writing, and Flain's gonna give us his unique perspective on furry writing and whatever else we can come up with.
I like reading, so there, it's good.
All right.
Good job, you guys.
So Flain, what's in the news?
Oh, okay. Well, since we're going to do it a little bit light, since we're doing two combine shows, nothing's been really big. Technically, I still have two anthropods floating out there in the ether that have to be taken care of with the whole Chew Fox thing and stuff like that.
We've been waiting for them.
Yeah, it's also been a little bit busy, so I'm sorry for that, everybody, if this comes out before then. The only big thing that I know that's come up that I think is probably noteworthy, if any of you individuals still are doing the Furcadia, there was a big security breach where a whole bunch of passwords got leaked out. It was put on the main chat and everything. Anybody who had a basic password like Fur1 or something like that, consider your password compromised at this point. But hopefully you probably, are smart enough to know that you can just switch that over to Fur2 and you're okay.
I thought Furtunia and Furcadia were two different things.
Oh.
But yeah, that was the big news, is that there was a big security breach and a whole bunch of people, and supposedly there was some some of the paid stuff may have gotten transferred over to people's accounts and stuff like that, and that they were like,
pay for Furcadia?
"Oh yeah, it's like $150 to be a dragon for life."
Out of context, that's one of the most amazing sentences I've ever heard.
I was just going to say, I thought it just took tripping a lot.
No.
For half the price of an Xbox 360, you could be a dragon forever.
Yeah, it's like there's like portraits you can get for like $15, but yeah, like some of the big ones, like you can get wings forever for $75.
Wow.
Sorry.
That's
That's just ridiculous.
I'm trying to figure out what their concept of forever is.
Well, you have to realize this is a system that's been around since 1994. This is older than I have been in the fandom. So, this is something that has been here since the dawn of time, and it's pretty much still there. And no problem to anybody who actually still does the Furcadia stuff. But pretty much Furcadia at this point is everybody who is either super tangentially furry or still has such a crappy machine they can't run Second Life.
Or they spent the $150 and they don't want to give up being a dragon.
Dude, I'm a dragon. No, totally.
You can be a dragon forever, or until we leak your passwords and some hoser jacks your account.
Well, and you could still be a dragon. It's just they can be a dragon too.
Well, and the funny thing is in that
sounds like a
particular
soft drink
game,
commercial.
people can make particular mods. They can make particular dreams, as they are called, that have that access. So everybody who goes in it becomes a dragon.
Wow.
So it's not even that.
I think I read that story.
Oh boy, transformation fiction. Okay.
Yay.
So that was the only big thing that I know that came out recently of all that stuff is that, there was just a whole big password breach and stuff like that. Besides that, after the whole Chew Fox incident, everything has kind of calmed down. And you can find out more about that and more over at anthropod.org and catch the show once we get it up.
Go into the past, which is also the future.
Yes.
The future today.
Our future, your past.
Thank you for helping us. Help you help us all.
Go local sports team.
Go local sports team. All right, so before we get into...
Today was fail local sports team.
Well, your local sports team.
No, like local sports teams.
Yeah.
That was
local.
a colossal fail on both counts.
That's very true.
Are we going to break this down and just go into sports for some bit and just appease everybody on your side?
We can segue it into the sequel to Out of Position somehow.
Well, I am working on that right now. So all of this football fail is really good inspiration for writing some of the scenes in that.
So are you going to call it like 4th and 10 or something?
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to call it yet. Although I will have to say that they've been stuck in a non-football setting and scene for
You can have it called rushing the
forever.
rushing the passer or something.
Oh, when I was asking for titles before I came up with the title for the first one, I got all kinds of suggestions on the journal and flag on the play and
in the sack,
unsportsmanlike conduct and all sorts of stuff like that. I don't even remember half of them, but that was funny. So maybe I'll do another call just to see what people come up with.
4th and goal.
More embarrassing than the 2007 Super Bowl.
Oh, between the uprights.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
Maybe that'll be this one.
Yeah, or you should go the Air Bud way and keep changing the sport.
Oh, jeez.
I don't think Air Bud should be used to emulate anything.
Should go the Air Bud way and amputate the leg of one of the main characters in the second one?
Sure, go ahead.
Did Air Bud lose a leg?
Yeah, the dog who played Air Bud got cancer and they had to amputate one of his legs.
How could he be the golden receiver without a leg?
That's why the sequel was just his puppies.
Oh shit, they did do the...
I'm not making this up. He had cancer and they had
This
to
is
remove his
hilarious
leg.
and sad at the same moment. I'm sorry,
Did they go
everyone.
into space?
I think we broke an otter again.
Didn't the puppies go into space?
Did Leprechaun show up eventually? I mean, what's going to happen here?
I'm the leprechaun.
Everybody, I'm sorry if you usually listen to this show.
I think
You definitely changed the dynamic.
I think Hirosaki might want to think twice about mixing beer and wine in the future. It seems to have
It's not
made
my
him
fault.
even-
It's Flain. Talk about being a dragon forever.
I think we are going to have to immortalize "Dragon for Life" as one of our phrases.
I want to get a tattoo across my chest. Dragon for life.
Anybody who donates to this show will just get to be called a dragon for life.
Dragon for life.
Oh man, if we had our own Unsheathed forums, we could have that be your little forum title, Dragon for Life.
Until you
could
post enough.
Hey, if we get you guys over on Anthropod, you could totally have a forum and therefore do that.
We should. Well, we talked about that already. We should.
I'm
Get
just
that
lazy.
set up.
I'm just lazy.
I haven't really emailed you at all about it. So,
Yeah. And I'm forgetful too. So,
well, we'll do it right here. We'll just lock the door until we get it all settled out.
it's going to be a big management meeting. I'm sorry, we gotta draft that contract tonight. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, let's not do that. So I think one of the things we wanted to talk about with Flain was kind of what's your perspective. I mean, we talk a lot about writing and books and stuff, but we're real immersed in the community of writers and people who read sort of by definition, because the people that want to talk to us are people who've read our stories and read our books. And you've kind of an outsider's perspective where you read graphic novels and stuff, but
my girlfriend considers me an ingrate, so, she's like, what, I read a book every single night. I'm like, I download comics and they got pictures, so...
Twitter is reading?
It's difficult. Sometimes people use acronyms I gotta look up. So,
what does FYIAD mean?
FYI, don't start breaking my mind here. But yeah, as for the writing thing, and just so everybody knows, I have been buzzed a little bit. These guys offered me a bunch of beer and everything, which was
Local microbrews even.
Yeah, local microbrews, love it. It was an Oktoberfest in Amber from it was something ocean related. Wake. Something. Okay, I'm gonna destroy your show by trying to figure out what it was. It was Wake something.
Tide
House. Tide House. There we go.
We're not making that up for the show, by the way.
No.
It's not just because of the furry double entendre here. It's actually called that.
But it should be the official drink of Unsheathed.
If you could get that image on a growler of a... Oh, there goes my mind.
That picture.
Get that on a growler. That's what she said.
Cam Hirasaki's going to go away for about 2 minutes here. He'll be back.
That picture Xavier did. You want that on a Tide House growler?
Ooh, that'd be nice, actually. But he's not tied. He's just naughty, sheathy, foxy, drippy.
I'm sure if we asked Xavier, he'd do us a Tide picture.
What are they talking about?
We got at Rainforest. We got free porn from somebody who was listening to us record.
At the live show, he did the sketch while in the audience and came up halfway through the show and handed it to us.
Oh, that's nice. All I get is posts on lulls, so I guess each their own.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's this great moment where we suddenly both go speechless, and we're like, "Oh, hello." He certainly looks happy to see us.
As the word is called, myrrh.
and he later colored it and put it up on FA. So if you want to go to Xavian's Gallery on FA, Zavian.
And we have it on our own Unsheathed account as well, don't we?
We have the pencil one. We didn't put the colored one up because all I saw was his link to the gallery. I haven't asked him for the file
He told us we could post a colored one, I thought.
Yeah, I need to just go download it and repost it, and I haven't done that yet.
That smacks of effort.
Yeah, I know. Kind of lazy.
We'll join the Flain club of, too lazy.
Hey,
It'll happen.
I'm on vacation for a month, so...
I want to kill you and eat your brain and get your vacation. That's not how that works, is it?
No.
I have a lot of...
You could embody my skin and become my personality. You could emulate me.
Or I could go to jail and have a ton of free time.
Oh, dude, yes. Come on, you got the idea. Let's do this. Let's go to jail tonight.
It's a California jail. They're soft. Not like you have back in Atlanta.
Oh, soft. it's the gentle jail.
I've been hearing the wrong stories about jail, apparently.
Dude, totally. Let's go up to Oakland. I'm sure it's going to be fine there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I don't even like going through Oakland, let alone to it.
Oakland kind of like jail.
Yeah, like...
All right, but anyway.
The less said, the better.
Talking about writing in your perspective.
I am so sorry I am on your show. There you go.
Well, it's a combined cast.
Yeah,
so.
With the craziness of my particular show, with the hopeful intellectual part of your show, leads it to be like intellectually crazy.
Yeah, I think that's what we're achieving.
So things that I particularly, let's see. Sad to say, I haven't actually been reading as much as I had. I tried to get your book at Feral, which unfortunately sold out like moments before I was able to get. You were like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and it's all out, and I was like,
I'm sorry,
but we have
Tim.
a copy here we saved for you.
Okay, awesome. I'll hit that up hardcore.
And since we know that you have a month off if you don't read it, he can spite you. I don't give a shit. It's not my book.
I'll just be sitting like this. What's it? Ooh, he's doing what? Bookmark. But it's kind of sad because the fact is, I said my girlfriend kind of calls me an idiot because she loves to read, and I don't end up reading that much, and it's mostly because I don't know if it's college textbooks that kind of burned it into my skull, or it's like if I open up a textbook, it's going to be filled with 8,000 terms that's just going to blow over my skull. So it's been a while since I've actually read anything that I've really loved. The last book, and this is so funny, it's one of my favorite books, is I read probably right around the 9th grade, and it was 1984, which, is a damn heady book.
You were in 9th grade in 1984, or that's what you read?
No, that's what I read in 1984.
Okay.
In 1984, I was 2, or technically 1, depending on where on the year you were. So,
yeah,
but yeah, and that kind of just sets on the idea of I kind of like these quasi-intellectual, like that book was particularly interesting to me because it was the first time I actually got really challenged when I read a book.
Yeah.
Because for the most part, I had read stories and they were like, oh, no, and in the end, everything's okay, and da-da-da-da-da. That was the first time where I read it and I got to the end and I was like, no, I put myself as the protagonist. I'm supposed to do well. No.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of 1984, actually. I really liked it. And I'm sure it comes as a surprise to no one. K.M. Hirosaki likes depressing dystopian fiction? No, I would never have guessed that.
We're just talking about one of your, wait, what? Yeah. Russians love your story.
Yeah.
I think the only difference is 1984 had sort of painful, awkward heterosexual sex instead of hot
Well,
gay sex.
I was just thinking when Flain's talking about needing to get a copy of your book, it's like, oh yeah, my girlfriend doesn't rag. Like, my girlfriend rags on me because I don't read enough. It's like, okay, honey, I'm reading gay porn.
There, I did what you wanted.
You can't complain.
There, sweetie. Let me tell you the chapter I read last night. Two Wigglies
Awesome.
going at it.
Total sausage
It
fest.
was talking about docking and it wasn't a boat.
Oh, shit. I just reminded you of this thing with my roommate the other day, which, that just came out completely wrong. Wow.
That's what she said.
I think I need a refresh here. Thank you, Mr. Silver, for taking my wine glass. I hope you bring it back with it fixed.
Yeah, I should point out that although Flain has laid off the beer for now, we got Cam Hirosaki has his traditional wine, and I have my traditional Coke Zero.
Yes,
so
I do have my traditional
we're all
wine.
well lubricated, as it were.
But I don't think I started drinking until well after Flain did, so I should be okay.
I hope so.
Because I went through 3 beers. It's like, why does my glass keep getting refilled?
Actually,
this is wonderful.
We
No,
don't
I had-
abide
I
broken
had-
glasses here.
I actually had 3 beers, too, because I had a beer at home right before coming over. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
All right.
So I'm
But,
ahead of you.
Woo.
Ooh.
So,
We're going to have a drink fight.
so if I understand it correctly, you're challenging us to write a furry version of 1984.
Oh, jeez. Wow. Okay.
I think Rikoshi already did that.
I think you might have, actually. Not quite.
No, not really.
It's not quite grim
No,
enough.
we have to write 1980 fur, and then we can, we can get Fuzzwolf to sell it.
Well, you know what?
1980 myrrh.
You know, it kind of leads into a little bit because, and I told you this at Feral that I've had story ideas in my mind, but I'm somebody that's so kind of just scatterbrained, and I also have a little bit of problem of keeping to pushing my ideas, and also a little bit of starting a big project. Is that I have a few ideas, namely two kind of stories that end up merging into one. One of them called Cherub, one of them called Factions. And they have a lot of that because I've kind of taken some parts of different ideas that I've had and kind of strung them together. And the 1984 comes in because one of the main scenes in one of the stories is pretty much, well, I'm just to give some people some background, I live in Georgia, which is, there is a large contingent of people that are what we would call libertarian, which are, individuals that are like, you need to limit the government, people need to control everything and stuff like that. And you know what? Fine and good. That's the way you can think it.
Damn government come taking away my damn revenuers.
Yeah. And I have a friend, and this is I might get some stuff for that if he hears about this, but whatever. But Jay Naylor, which, the famous artist
Yep.
and everything
Jay
like
Naylor.
that. A friend of mine, good guy.
Can you say his name without the infamous Jay Naylor? Without the
I
infamous
can.
in front of it?
I don't know about you.
All right.
He might hurt you for that. But Jay Naylor, he's part of that mantra of, get the government out of here, everything like this. And that the story that I have in my mind is like, what would a libertarian government be if it went to its dystopian end? Which would be like, every single road has a roadblock because you have to go pay a toll. You have no real police because you end up having, militias taking care of this area, militias taking care of this area, and etc. You just end up coming up with all these roadblocks because nothing is consistent. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the ideas that I have, where you have people living through times that are uncomfortable, if you want to say it that way. So
College?
that was just
Junior high?
junior high. You got me. Your first FurCon? Alone?
Oh, my first FurCon was a really awkward experience. I had a panic attack while I was at it.
Holiday family dinners.
I was going to say that, but then Flain mentioned FurCons, and I thought that would be funnier. But yeah, that reminds me, I should probably see my family for Christmas. I haven't seen them in 2 years.
My first FurCon was actually RCFM for like a day and a half. And this is all right. I'm going to go ahead and put on the nerd button. I came back from a LARP, and
all right. I'm glad Kit brought me back a big glass of wine. Now.
Trust me, I wish I had more beer.
Lightning bolt.
I wish it was any different.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was about. I decided to do half and half because it was my first time. I went half to that, and then drove all the way across the state into Alabama up to RCFM and did half of that, and I enjoyed the con more than the LARP. So just to give you an idea.
Well, there you go.
I have to be fair. I have in fact LARPed, if that's the correct verbiage.
Now, of course, here's the question:
Well,
are we talking vampire LARP where you're just going around in a cowl?
No,
or are we talking
it was a
boffer?
boffer LARP.
Oh yeah, here, give it, brother.
It was called The Realms. It's based out of Western Massachusetts, and I went to one boffing realm event. My character was a cleric named Niles.
Dude,
and I died like the very first time anyone came at me.
2.5 years of Nero.
Oh, Nero, shit, really?
Yeah.
I actually know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate myself that I do.
Trust me, I hate myself that I did.
So you weren't...
Wow.
Okay, well, at least you weren't a
You guys are frightening me. This is good. This is good for horror episode.
Yeah.
You people out there who wanted to know how to write something scary, just
have the two of us
Get-
talking.
You used to LARP? I used to LARP. Let's have sex. Boffers.
Hold on, let me text my girlfriend. Being offered sex on latest show.
Yeah.
Can I accept?
Being offered sex live on recorded podcast.
Is this cool?
She's going to listen to this episode later and be like, "Wait, what the hell?"
That's actually an interesting little story idea. So it's like, hey, if somebody offered me sex, can I accept it?
I was thinking of the sex live on the podcast angle, but I think we could do both.
Dude, okay, hold on. The first times I was looking for podcasts, I came across a particular podcast called Swingercast. Just because it was in the sexual area, and I was like, I wonder what this is going to be like. Literally, the first 4 minutes of it was somebody getting a BJ.
No.
Like, seriously.
Did they do the Donald Duck voice at least?
This was a sound file of just, oh, you're so good. I'm like, oh!
All right,
Delete, unsubscribe!
I think I was just going to say that I thought it might be a little difficult to work our regular blowjob reference into our podcast, and I did not think that the one to do it would be Flain.
You're welcome.
So kudos.
I
man.
was just going to say, if I were ever giving someone a blowjob and that's how they complimented me in that tone of voice, I would get up and leave. Like, I don't care who it was or where I was.
Well, I just find it funny that and this was a listener contribution. So it's like, hold on 1 second, sweetie.
Wow.
I'm going to pull out my pocket recorder while you do this.
I am never going to feel clean again. Thank you.
Wow.
That's what I bring to different shows.
And we appreciate that. And it was on topic, too.
Yeah.
It was terrifying and erotic related. So there you go.
So I understand horror.
Yes.
Yeah.
We
Horror.
do.
Which says
Shut your
something
horror
totally
mouth.
different if you say it a different way.
Horror.
Horror. But yeah, you talked about some of your story ideas at Feral, and so I thought this would be a good venue, and glad to hear about them. So, what do you feel stops you from getting the projects off the ground?
You know, what it always comes down to is the fact that I have a lot of really pungent little pieces. Like, oh, that one particular scene is so awesome. I love that. This particular scene is so great. This is good. But I never feel like I have all the strings attached. Like, well, all this is supposed to end this way, but I'm not sure. And how do I connect these 2 points that it doesn't sound like it's stupid? And, and that's what kind of it starts off with. I think I technically have a good beginning, like maybe a good starting 2 chapters, but the thing about factions is this is what kind of makes it more difficult, is the fact that I'm trying to tell a story of 2 different sides, and trying to tell a story of 2 different sides in which this side thinks this side is assholes and this side thinks that side is assholes, but neither side are assholes.
Right.
Where,
I was going to say, I know at least an example where they do that, where, from this point of view, Group A, looks like the good guys, and from this point of view, Group B looks like a good side. Although, in the reality, instead of neither of them being assholes, they're both kind of assholes, and I'm thinking specifically of Kim Stanley Robinson's Mars trilogy.
Oh, God, I read the first book of that, and while I enjoyed the book, I didn't want to read the rest of them because I didn't care about any of the characters.
Yeah, but it is an example of you can paint your impression of something from someone's point of view, and you can promote sympathy,
right.
And then by switching to somebody else's point of view, you can portray contempt.
Right. Well, the easiest way I saw to do that is to make them part of a larger group, is make the larger group be, like, this group as a whole are bad, but there are good people in it. And this group as a whole are kind of bad, but this part of them is good.
Like America on the world stage.
Yeah, it'd be like, everybody in, like, I was listening to something, and this is going to be such a tangent, but like the conception of America in Germany is that we are all cowboys, which is
same in Japan.
Oh, okay.
They think we're all cowboys and that we all own guns.
So that's just the thing, is that the idea is this, but if you go there and you're like, hey, this is me, I'm just a cool guy, they're like, oh, okay, well, you're an exception. Everybody else is a cowboy,
right? And the Americans have their own stereotypes of Germans and Japanese too.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what age bracket you fall in, it's different stereotypes, but yeah, we have the same thing.
When do we bust out into the sound of music?
The hills are alive with
apparently
the
now.
Music. All right, there we go.
All right, and that's done with. So, did you want to dive into the horror questions, or did you have some stuff you wanted to ask us?
I think, and this is just going in, I think my particular problem is just the entire fact of I just have, I've got a lot of, it's always the conception I have a lot on my plate. I don't have the time to actually do it or give it the treatment that I feel it deserves. And that it would I just don't feel like I have what I need to make it as good as it is. And of course, I realize in part of my head, that's what editing's for. That's what cleaning up's for. That's everything like that. But the concept in my head is that, hey, I need to write this good, so that when I look at it when I edit, I'm like, okay, that was good. And I can work off of it. And it might be, and this is going to be stupid as well. And the fact that I wrote, it was probably like a novella, but I wrote like a whole story of Flain in high school. And then after I was done, I looked back at it and I was like, Jesus Christ, what did I do? This is the dumbest thing I've ever, fan fiction looks better than this.
I think a lot of our listeners are kind of in the same boat where they're busy with a lot of things, work and socializing and video games and whatnot, World of Warcraft. And,
ding.
They just, I think one of the funniest moments was when we were at Camp Farrell. I don't think you were there, but we were at the musician circle, and all these people were getting up and playing their songs and playing songs they'd written and playing guitar, and they'd learned to play guitar. And this one guy said, eventually after like an hour or 2 hours of this, said, this might be a stupid question, but how many of y'all play World of Warcraft? And like one person raised his hand. He was like, that's what I thought. Damn it. All the time I could have wasted taking guitar lessons.
Wow.
So, I thought that was
funny.
I
just podcast and play World of Warcraft, so
right,
that's about
exactly.
even for me.
The point, one of the things that you mentioned was about, I don't have time to sit and do this. And one of the things I say time and time again to a lot of people is that, there's no such thing as having the time to write. It's always making the time to write. That's pretty much how it goes, because it's a hard thing to do. And so, you're always going to left to your own devices, you will always try to fill that block of time with something that's easier. Unless you whip yourself into shape and.
Yeah, and a lot of people who tell me, well, I really want to be a writer, but I have this story in mind and I just can't find the time to do it. I can't get it to come out right. I can't. And, I started it like 3 months ago and then I haven't done anything with it since then. And I always kind of feel like, if you had to get the story out, you'd make the time to do it.
Well,
and,
I'm sure.
we talk about that a lot.
I'm sure a good amount of it is confidence issues. I mean, if I felt like I had everything nailed down, it would be set on its own path,
right?
Because I would know where it would go. I know how it moves, and it's just a little bit of confidence of like, is this as nice in my head as it would translate to paper?
And it's always better in your head. Even people like us, whenever we write stories, we always run into that where it's like we had this brilliant idea and then we write it down. And you had one recently where
the one I just finished writing, which I don't think I'm going to even finish. Oh, I mean, I finished the first draft, but I don't think I'm going to bother to rewrite it because I just I had an idea, I wrote it. I'm like, that was just that there really wasn't a story to go with that idea.
Yeah. Now you're going to torture our listeners because they're going to be like, oh, there's a Cam Hirosaki story that we're never going to get to see. It'll be like the fabled Lost Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yeah, I like that.
I like that.
The furry Lost Sea Scrolls.
Nobody died in
it. Said mer per rich fur.
But anyway, I mean, it kind of makes me feel like, there's probably some other way to get those ideas out. Like, you talked about working with an artist. And
I technically worked with 3 artists for a while. I worked originally with Fossil back in the day, and that just turned into something where it was just a little bit hard to wrangle in. I worked with another artist who was technically outside the fandom, but who was kind of interested on the periphery. But she was even less able to concentrate. She was the kind of person that would be like, "I'm doing painting, I'm doing tarot cards, I'm doing a comic, every 3 weeks was just like, here's my new thing."
All the names I'm not going to name on the podcast are going through my head right now.
Yeah,
and then I then went back and tried to get my friend Bonk, but that's one of the things where he just has so much on his schedule.
I didn't know you're friends with Bonk.
Oh yeah, we're tight.
That's not an adjective I would want to use in that case.
We used to run an X-Men game together, and I do a Serenity tabletop with him.
Oh, so you're going to have to talk to you when we're done recording about tabletop stuff. I didn't know you were into that either.
Dude, I have Serenity tabletop at the place. Bring it by. It's awesome. You're wearing a Blue Sun shirt.
I am wearing a Blue Sun
shirt. So there you go.
Shirt.
I mean, the fact I say that, you should be like, oh, really? Tell me more.
I didn't want to get too excited at the podcast. I wanted to say on topic.
You really have already failed at that.
I'm sorry.
It's not my fault.
As I said, I bring a different dynamic to shows I come on.
Which is great. We love it.
I'm just so animated. I'm sorry. The beer, it does.
Yeah. Well, that's why we gave you 3 glasses.
3.
We call it podcast fuel here at our discreet, undisclosed Pacific oil tanker, whatever it
location. Yeah, somewhere.
They talked about Oakland earlier. Why don't you cross-reference?
Oakland's on the Pacific.
Ish. Anyway.
That's more than ish. You can get to the Pacific Ocean from Oakland.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can get to the Pacific Ocean from...
You can get to the Pacific Ocean from Portland or Seattle or Los Angeles.
You can get to the Pacific Ocean from New York City, too.
From
you just
Chile.
It just takes a little longer.
Oh, sure. Kill me with semantics.
Semantics or semantics?
All right. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times people get stuck on writing because it's something that you can do and you have complete control over by yourself. And sometimes that's a plus and a minus.
Yeah. One thing I might try, and I know that this is a big thing, and I'm technically on vacation for now, so maybe I could collect some of my thoughts and maybe take care of some of the Anthropod stuff with the site and everything,
like getting Unsheathed up on it.
Yeah, that's on the list. Oh, hey, you sounded just like me. But one thing that I know is coming up, I could possibly try it for, because once I get back home, I'll probably have a bunch of disposable time. But November's coming up, which, if I remember correctly, November is that great, like, semi-quasi contest for novel writing.
NaNoWriMo, yeah. National Novel Writing Month.
Where it's just like, just write as much as you can. What's the limit? What's the
50,000 words is the goal.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Yeah,
It's only 1,300 words a day, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
and just
Which is doable.
It's simply just sitting there and pounding and just putting stuff down onto a page and just be like, okay, you are going to get to that amount.
And the whole point of it is to get people to stop worrying about, what I write as a first draft has to be quality. Mm-hmm. And there is actually a National Novel Editing Month where you take the novel you wrote in November and you edit it, and I believe that's March.
That was way more soul-crushing.
Yeah, I think a lot fewer people do that because it's not as much fun.
Well, it's because like what you were saying...
And you don't really know when you're done.
That's true, which we've also... But sort of building off of what you were both saying about this whole, needing to, I want to be a writer and do this, and about making the time. I think that writing is an interesting case where I think that there's a sort of conception where, people go like, oh, yeah, like, I have stories, like, I want to be a writer, and they just sort of expect it to happen. But, like, if it's like, oh, like, I want to be, like, a concert pianist, like, nobody just expects to sit down at a piano and be great at it. Or, like, oh, I want to be an astronaut. Like, you don't just walk into NASA and ask to be let on the space shuttle. But for some reason, like, with writing...
Speak for yourself.
Well, yeah, actually...
I think I'm good enough. Come on.
No, Punky Brewster already killed those dreams for me back in the mid-'80s.
Aw.
So...
Don't you remember the movie? You have to be able to, like, blow into a tube and keep the little ball up for 2
Yeah, but wasn't
minutes.
there, like, that astronaut, the farmer
that,
astronaut or something like that, where he was able to do it or something? I don't...
Kid's
Everybody
laughing 'cause
can
he's
be
the only
one
one who
now.
heard me say that.
But,
Kid's also happy because the Rockies tied it up.
woo-hoo. You're now dating the game.
He just likes things being tied up.
Hey-oh! That's what she said. So... I mean that's an idea for me to go ahead and try that. Maybe I can go through during that month, though. Of course, even that idea is a little bit frightening. Of just like, oh, I'll try and do this big crazy story, and I got to make sure it works and everything.
The nice thing about it is they have a whole infrastructure set up where you can register and have a site. And I've never actually done the official thing, but you can just upload your word count and
yeah. And that's a good bit of pressure. People can keep tabs on you. It's like, hey, you're slacking.
And they can mock you.
And I always thought, especially for furries, November is a tough month because you've got Midwest Fur Fest and then you've got Thanksgiving. And
see, I do neither, so there you go.
Well, there you go.
Though to go ahead and date the show again, congratulations to everybody doing their Canadian Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Canadian Thanksgiving.
As I said earlier, beta testing Thanksgiving for us Americans.
Yep.
Shout out to all the Canadian furs that I didn't meet because I didn't go to Feral with Kyle.
Oh, we'll get you there one day.
Feral high five from across the way.
Woohoo!
Hirosaki-san feels all left out now.
I am.
That'd be a great place for an otter too. Lots of water and
water and slipperiness and
water
a
and
bunch of gay
slipperiness
furries.
and gay furries. Yeah, it's all great. But it's a PG-13.
I've heard stories about otters, so
I've written stories about it. I mean,
so have I.
Hey now, don't
oh
you
yeah.
miss
So
over.
on the last podcast where we had the little update about Kyle writing his little story about his challenge for me, and I called him a son of a bitch. I have seen a draft of this full story now. He sent it to me while I was at work, the bastard. Because he's like, hey, I noticed that you were having a really rough week at work. I thought it could cheer up your day. It's just sort of like, okay, well, there goes about 45 minutes of productivity right there. Thank you very much. And now I am extra... To use a buzzword that I know will make Kyle cringe, I am very incentivized to make sure that my story that I write back for him is of equal caliber. I think I failed that the first time around. I don't think that the story I wrote for you on our first counter challenge was nearly as good as the one you wrote.
Incentivized. That sounds like management talk.
Well, I'm perfectly willing to do as many go rounds of this challenge as it takes. If we have to do...
Keep writing about me getting fucked by wolves. Just keep doing it. Keep doing it, Hirosaki-san. I won't say no.
Just one.
Of course you won't.
Just the same one.
So
Not
that's
multiples.
www.yifstar.com for the
Yifstar.
same fox getting fucked by wolf story over and over again.
Yifstar.
No, not the
for
same
quality
story.
entertainment.
The same wolf, not the same story.
Oh.
You said wolves plural, and I was just like, just
did
just
I?
the one. Yeah,
I think you might have just misheard me. Or maybe I slurred because the same wolf keeps giving me wine.
Or maybe you were actually plotting a story.
Or maybe I can't think of a good joke there.
I'm understanding we're receiving mystical signs from a ghost that we're supposed to focus
Yes.
as he watches a baseball game.
Yeah, focus. So, I know you said you wanted to ask us some questions. So, did you want to do that? I mean, we're at the point now where we could just do the horror questions the next episode, and
I mean, we could roll across on that. We can toss those aside. Even though I could use funny voices on some of the emails.
we'll have to do it.
Halloween next week anyway.
That's true.
Whisper,
So yeah, if we don't, yes, Kit is telling me right now that if we're going to put off the horror for another week. So if anyone has questions they didn't send in, the questions we got all boil basically down to how do you write things that are scary?
Yeah, and we could stand to have some more for more conversation fodder, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, we could certainly fill like 15, 20 minutes just talking about our favorite horror writers and what they do right.
And that doesn't mean, hey, people who already wrote in, you didn't write in good enough. That's not what I mean.
No, it just means if people want to.
We only heard from a few of you.
Right.
That and the fact I'm pretty terrible when it comes to horror writing. And I don't like scary stuff. I watch Shaun of the Dead and Zombieland because...
Speaking of which, I hear that Paranormal Activity, the movie that just hit, is terrifying.
I've been seeing that too. It's actually been rated R for intensity.
Wow.
Not for any other reason but intensity. And of course, I've heard it either way. I've heard it that yes, it is a crazy, terrifying movie. But I've also heard that it is possibly just a big hype wagon sent by the studio. Because if you go in there going, oh my god, this is the scariest movie of all time, you're going to be disappointed. But if you go in there with limited expectations, it will surpass.
The last movie I did that with was The Descent, where people told me, oh my god, this movie is terrifying, and it is. Mm-hmm. I mean, that movie scared the crap out of me.
The last one that I went into like that was Blair Witch Project, where everyone was like, oh my god, it's such a scary movie, it's so terrifying, and I was like, okay, it had one creepy scene at the end, and otherwise it was just shaky cam.
Well, I thought Blair Witch was all right. I saw that over at a friend's place ages back, and it had some scary things like what's in the box? What's in the box? Oh, it's a heart, and stuff.
I saw the Blair Witch Project when it was still just in indie theaters before it had a huge thing of hype. So people said, "Oh, you need to see this." I'm like, "Okay." So I sat down. I didn't know anything about it, and I didn't know it wasn't a documentary when I was watching it. I didn't realize it was fiction until near the end.
And in that case, I could see it being
scary.
I could see it being okay. We just found this tape and we're playing it for you. I can see that being
dude,
more
I just watched a snuff film.
Yeah, without the fourth wall there, to know okay, it's not real. Under the impression that it was real, it was very scary.
Though, funny side point about Blair Witch. I think it was my French teacher's daughter in high school had the opportunity to put money down into Blair Witch and never did.
Oh.
And she could have made just millions.
I was reading an article just earlier today about low budget movies that made a ton of money, and Blair Witch was one of them. I think they made it for under $500,000 and it grossed $150 million.
Yeah, I thought they made it for $50 in an old beat up map.
No, it was more than that.
Yeah, the investors just reap so much money off of that.
Yeah, but
which is the show over
but that's
here
one thing. Ooh,
Hello.
But to kind of toss in a little thing about horror, since we promised people, that's one of the ways that you can really get to people is by building up expectations, and then playing off of them. And because if people expect one thing and you're giving them something else, you can really twist that around into something frightening.
And I think that's something that applies to crafting tension in general. And in this case, it's a matter of intent. And a lot of it's going to come through in the content that you're writing. I mean, and what Kyle says there is really good advice, and I think that there's a difference between, there's atmospheric horror where you're creating like a spooky sort of atmosphere and, having, basically just the setting and what's going on being scary. Then there's like, suspense thriller, and then you've got, Lovecraft is kind of his own thing.
Yeah, and actually Lovecraft came to mind when in one of the questions that we got, so I'll save that one for next.
Yeah, because I could talk for a long time about Lovecraft.
Yeah.
And of course you miss a few things like the theatrical boo effects that they usually have. Like you can't actually just drop in the words in big bold letters, and then she was behind him. And like, oh! It's not as, pungent as it would be in other medias.
But people have been writing scary stuff since before there were movies.
Right,
I mean, the original Frankenstein and Dracula, those were horror. Those were scary.
And in movies, usually it's just
Still
because,
sometimes.
it's loud noises attached with movement.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
You've got the loud musical stinger, like the single note, like violin screech.
Just like...
And in movies, you have control over the pace at which people experience the story. Like with a book, and I have the terrible habit of when I flip a page in a book, I kind of skip ahead to the bottom of the following page so I know what happened in that two pages.
As she was eating their corpse.
So, yeah, so when I see, and there's bloody entrails there, I'm like, oh, something bad happens in between here and there. And so...
As she opened up a Ziploc bag and began to eat
I'm glad I don't have your reading problem. Like, I'm terrified of spoilers as it is. The idea of reading, like, half a page ahead is, like, anathema to me.
And see, I'm like the opposite. I'm the one that's like, please, spoil it for me.
Kid opens books to the last page.
Yeah.
Do you really?
Yeah,
He's nodding at me affirmatively for you folks at home.
He does.
As a confident nod.
I will not even read the back cover of a book until I'm about halfway through it.
In this sci-fi thriller, everyone dies at the end.
Oh,
wait, so you have read Rikoshi's book.
Wow. That's very telling that we share that in common.
Yes, and telling in another way.
So
anyway,
we're
like
not to take it
not
of course to leave a lot of the horror discussion for next time.
But
when
yeah,
you guys hit that up.
We'll leave it for them. But you had something you wanted to ask, or
I don't know. Did I?
Well, you said you started with why. You did the why at Feral.
Well,
and then
I did the why at Feral, and of course the question that I had, and this was just kind of a little interesting thing. I was kind of trying to figure out things today, and this has been okay. I'll admit to this. I lurk on lulz a bunch, just because, well, one, I want to make sure, and see what they're talking about, and if they ever talk about me, which they did today.
I've seen Kyle pop up on lulz.
Oh yeah, I've totally seen that too. I mean, I keep a good grab on it, for different reasons of just telling people, hey, this came up, and then be like, okay, a Jay Naylor thread came up, kind of chuckle, and do those particular things, but. The one thing that I keep noticing, and this occurs about as much as their postings of horse penis, which just a second, but there
Six Semper horse penis.
But is the entire idea of is the fandom a fetish, which is a big question that I for the longest time I kind of went, no, it's the old thing, it's the old community, it's a community of people, and then there's people inside of it that do their things, and there are people with fetish, and then I since the Feral episode, I have kind of gone back and went, well, I went to the base level of why. I went to why do you do this, and now I've started to take it. Well, okay, why is because of these different reasons, but what about different base things? Is this community technically a fetish?
I've been thinking about this actually a lot lately too, because this is a perennial topic. It comes up all the time. But I saw somebody say something that was very succinct, and I'm probably going to ruin it here by blathering. But it sort of put it in perspective to me. And the way I look at it is that I am very much drawn to animal people, and sort of the whole anthropomorphic milieu. That is appealing to me. The community is a part of my life. I'm very much just drawn to this whole idea of using animal people to tell stories and to depict characters and all of that thing. on the same vein, I'm also a human being. I am a sexual creature. I have, sexual things, and I like this. I also, like sex. It makes sense for me to combine the two. And it's not so much that I like furry things because they're sexual. I like it, sexual things when it's mapped onto that.
I think the question there would be, because I'm thinking about this in my case, I've my own answer, but I think the question would be, do you like, and you don't have to answer this on the podcast, but do you like sexual things that are not furry?
Okay, and I will answer
because
this on the podcast.
I'll say frankly. Well, go ahead. You go first.
I'm not into non-furry porn at all.
Yeah,
I'm just not. I don't. People have sent me like this. Before I found furry, there was that I would go to adult websites and pictures, but pretty much ever since plunging muzzle first into this little fandom of ours, other than actual real live sex I have with actual people, that's the only exposure I have to human sex.
Yeah, no, I was going to answer pretty much the same way. It's just clearly, we both write stories sexualizing furry critters because that's what we enjoy. And we've said many times, I write what I enjoy. And I just have really very little interest in human porn, at least visual. I've considered writing, and then it's kind of okay. It's not, I've been able to do it on occasion.
They had sex. Why can't they tie at the end?
But
you mean his dick just kind of hangs there and doesn't come out of this cute fuzzy holster?
Good job. Good job.
I'm putting it in perspective. Wow. It's on topic. No, it is. I think that's actually.
No,
it's
awesome.
It just sort of shows that it's a matter of a standard of attractiveness and what we consider attractive. And to be perfectly honest, I don't, with very rare exceptions, I don't notice when people are attractive. But if I'm going browsing a website, if I'm going through a furry webcomic, even if it's completely G-rated, but it's just oh yeah, he's hot, I'd fuck him.
No, I know exactly.
Let me pull this point. I do agree with you. Agree with you both on your points. If I just look at the bare quota of amount of fandom artwork that I have opposed to human artwork I have, it's dwarfed. There's no contest. It's probably more than a 4-to-1. But if you have to, and what it takes for a female or a male to appear attractive is so specific, and yet inside the fandom it's not as specific.
You're your species I like naked plus fave.
Yeah, part of it too is the fantasy aspect of it all. The fact that there's the one picture we were looking at earlier today, the spit roasting one.
Yeah, spit roasting.
Just trying to, if I try to picture what that would have looked like with people, I'm like,
it would just look just look slutty and dirty and wrong.
Not in a good way. Though.
Yeah, exactly. But slutty and dirty and wrong when it's animal people, for some reason it magically becomes hot.
So in this idea, if we take it like this, then at base value, yes, it is, because this is something that brings you a sexual attractiveness that is different than and that in some ways I don't want to say impedes, but it actually causes a difference. If it caused no indifference, if it can cause no difference, if you were to take them side by side and say, I could take one or the other, that would be none. But this shows a difference. So technically this would lead down the path of yes, it is.
Yeah, but what I will say is I believe what we're saying is for us, yes. I will say that I believe that furry fandom encompasses a lot of people, and I would not say that in all cases people in the fandom are in it because it's a fetish. Mm-hmm. There are people who, and I know people will say, well, if they protest so much, it's probably because it really is and they don't want to admit it. But there are a lot of people that do not sexualize the fandom.
Mm-hmm. And here's one thing that I want to bring up, which I think is probably going to be an interesting point. And this kind of brings it back over. Does your interaction with the fandom cause you to change who you personally find interesting. Which by I mean like this. Say you have people, all of them are in the fandom, but does their particular fursona, or as I like to call mersona, impact your decision on if you like them? So like, oh, that person has a husky, so therefore I like huskies better. Therefore, I'll most likely be more interested with them opposed to anyone else.
I'm going to answer this real quick. Online, yes, absolutely. I had a friend that I only knew online, did not know him in person at all. His fursona was a skunk. I used to talk to him all the time. Like, I was emotionally, physically attracted to him. Then, like, one day he switched his fursona over to a horse, and just, like, done. Like, I just could not relate to him anymore.
What is with them?
I just,
I know.
no, like, and it was weird. I just actually couldn't relate to him anymore. And, like, I was like, can you sign on as your other character so I can talk to you? Because it was just, I had this mental disconnect. And it was really weird. Now, for my in-person friends, that doesn't happen because, I mean, I'd have to say, well, you have to be really shallow to not be friends with somebody based on their persona. But then, my online friends like, oh, you turned into something I don't like, fuck you.
Then to take it on the opposite side, you have people who go to conventions that they have wolf panels and cat panels and things like that, where they have a grouping of people who may be established and friends that are simply based on the fact that they are said species.
Well, I'll say one thing that we've talked about a lot is that people, by and large, tend to choose their species based on the kind of person that they are or the image they want to project. So, in general, not targeting anyone specific, but in general, people who have fox personas relate in a way that's different from people who have horse personas, who are different from people who have dragon personas.
That's only $150, by the way.
Yeah, dragon for life.
And you know what? It's really, really interesting because I have to agree with that to a particular degree, and it's almost creepy because, like, take for the instance, I have a phoenix, and I was a falcon beforehand. If you look at individuals who have bird personas, usually they are somewhat very similar. Take two, take, Jacoby, take a whole, some of the other birds in the fandom. Usually they have a particular type. They're usually outgoing individuals. They usually talk a bunch. They usually, are very excited and very, just really put themselves out there.
It's actually interesting you say that because it's only over the last few years that I've really been able to relate to people with avian personas at all.
Yeah, it's funny. Well, the other thing that I was going to say is kind of related to what Hirosaki-san said, which is I find that when I'm watching people on LiveJournal or on Twitter or wherever else it is that I go to talk to people, and this is Furfinity is the other one.
Yeah,
that site.
that place.
Did you hear Tyra found out about that? Crazy!
OMG, WTF.
Oh, Lordy.
People's icons on those sites have some effect on, if I don't know them any other way except through their site, if they have a cute icon, I'm more likely to listen to what they're saying than if they have just some random...
Just the Twitter bird or
something.
Just
the Twitter bird or something like that.
I have absolutely friended people on LJ based on the fact that they have cute icons. I will admit that forthwith.
Your
icons are cute.
And just so everybody knows, my account Flain on FA, I'm entirely sorry right now that it is still the David Hasselhoff thong, image where it completely loops back into the thong.
Wow, that's the most epic boner kill. So if anyone was listening to this thinking about furry fetishism, just David Hasselhoff. Just, boom.
Yeah, I got to show you that image. Pretty much anybody who friends me either leaves the note of "Hi Flain, love the podcast," or "Oh my God, what the hell is up with that image?"
So actually, I do want to get back to the original question that you raised.
Okay, go for it.
When you asked, is the furry fandom a fetish? Now. That I'm not laughing at myself. I'm laughing at Kit. But
Kit has given us a serious 5-minute warning.
Okay, but I'm not going to draw this out. About the thing. Am I fetishistically attracted to furry critters? Absolutely, I will not deny that. In just based on what Kyle and I were talking about, I don't think I have any basis to deny that. Do I think the fandom itself is a fetish? Well, not exactly. And I am certainly capable of enjoying and appreciating furry things in a non-sexual context. You know, stuff like, you know, like when I'm reading, you know, like a New Tibet story, or, you know, watching, you know, like some sort of like, you know, cartoon show that has animal characters in it, there's not this sexual component that's always in my mind. I will be, just overall, I will be more interested in things that have animal characters or animal people characters in it, but it's not necessarily sexual. And when I say that,
an example I was just thinking of, movie Bolt.
Okay.
I love the movie, love the characters, love the story and everything. I have no desire to see or read Bolt porn.
Yeah, likewise.
None.
Zero. That sounds like my friend Donovan in, what is it, Stitch. From Lilo and Stitch. He's just like, I love that. Don't you ever, ever, ever show me anything like that.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, I love that
Same
movie
thing.
too, but I mean, at no point did I ever feel like, oh, I want to see him fucking something. Like, no,
Right.
Never crossed my mind at all.
Well, here's one thing that I kind of
And that's
took
from a
away
guy who
from
makes
it
a living at it.
that I think, howdy, that I think is kind of interesting. One, yes, you can't take the point of, well, you know, is it a fetish? Well, we know people who don't. I mean, I know Lizard Beth, who, you know, doesn't draw anything dirty and anything like that. I'm sure we know fursuiters that do it just because, you know, they like dancing around and being, you know, fun like that. And we know at least some people that do it. Is there
people
lot
who don't write erotica? Who write just plain furry fiction and specifically don't write anything dirty? Phil Goyes, who I talked to at Furry Fiesta, writes transformation fiction, but he specifically does not write anything suggestive or erotic.
It's worth pointing out, though, that for some people, the transformative aspect itself is erotica enough.
Now,
well,
here's my particular reason of why I think the fandom is erotic. It is erotic because, unlike many other subgroups, many other convention-laden groups, like, let's take sci-fi, because that's probably the easiest one to put a one-to-one, or to show the difference. In sci-fi, everything is made by the sci-fi makers. So, you know, you're not going to get as much Star Wars / or as much Star Trek / because that stuff is made by the users, but mostly people are paying attention to this stuff over here, the official stuff. The fandom is something where stuff that is made inside, for the most part, is made by the people. So the people determine the social norms. And opposed to the normal Anglo-Saxon, you know, hey, control yourself, you know, sexuality is bad, everything like this. In this society, people can say, you know what, sexuality's all right. You know, the fandom has been openly, you know, welcoming of homosexuals, openly
we are
welcoming
a
of
sexually
this.
permissive bunch.
And therefore, it is more okay because the social norm within the group is sexuality is not something that is terrible and mean and hurtful. It is something that, hey, newsflash, might be good, might be fun, might be interesting, as long as you're safe. The safe part's kind of
right. Well, and one of the things that has amused me about the fandom is the fact that many people will get commissions of their personas in medias res, as it were, writing, you know, doing whatever, and post them up in public for complete strangers to look at and see. And that's fine, and that's okay, and it's in some cases even expected. I had a friend who, and I'll keep this real short because we got to finish this, but I had a friend who's not furry but is aware of the fandom, and he lived right near Anthrocon when it was in Philly, and he was telling me about it afterwards and said, oh yeah, I ran into a bunch of very nice people who were very friendly and very willing to show me some very dirty pictures. And that's because that's just how the fandom is. It's like you're saying, it's very open about that. And I think it's really interesting.
It doesn't believe that sex
coming
is...
from the guy who's writing porn about his co-host.
If you, exactly. If you had told me that I would write a story about characters having explicit gay sex, like 15 years ago, and that I would let other people read it.
Yeah. Well, sex, and that's just the thing. Sex is not considered as shameful inside the fandom as seen outside the fandom.
And
that
your point
why.
is that because the fandom creates their own rules, the fandom has created this environment where sex is more...
Right. And of course, if you
open.
take, and I'll make this real quick, if you take something else like anime is the go-between. Anime is something where you have the creators create both, normal stuff, but also have the ability in many cases to create porn. And therefore you have the disconnect where they have a large number of regular stuff and a large number of porn. They're a little bit different in that case.
And that's why people on the outside who aren't into anime see that, wait a minute, you're drawing cartoon porn. What's wrong with you people? And they assume that that's all that it is. Because how could you ever draw this? How could you allow this in your fandom? How could you allow your fan base to consume this? OMG depravity.
Yeah. Well, cool.
Yeah,
That's
Speaking
good
of
question.
tentacle sex, we're going to get to our horror stuff next week.
Yeah. We'll do all that, and we want to definitely thank you for coming by. Flain,
Cthulhu
it's
wants
been
to touch you.
awesome.
Yeah, thank you very much. I will still be in the Bay Area. I'm probably going to be hitting up one of these crazy pizza noms or chickens or whatever they're called, the local stuff, just to catch up some of the flavor.
Night. See what I did there?
I
Yep.
see what you did. Damn it. So,
Hurry, put them down while you still have time.
it's far too late for that.
Yeah,
But-
I need to drink myself into unconsciousness first.
And letting y'all get back to your regularly scheduled lives now after, I think, probably like 3 hours of us rambling on.
It's funny, I almost want to go back and redo the podcast and just talk about the previous topic for an hour.
Yeah, which we could do. I mean, we could have Flain back over here sometime in the next month
I
and do it.
I could come back over. I mean, as I said, I'm here for a month. So
Yeah.
and they fed me well, so that's all it really requires.
And we poured you beer.
Oh
And
God,
beer.
I like beer.
And with that, I'm Kyle Gold.
I am Saki. I'm not tongue-tied this time.
And I am Flain Falcon /Phoenix /Phoenix
/tastic.
And thank you for
Flaintastic. Yeah.
find Flain's podcast on anthropod.org, Unsheathed at Unsheathed on FA,
And Twitter me is Flaintastic. Woo!
and Twitter is Kyle Gold.
And I don't have a Twitter. I'm an Otter.
Good
You
night,
can
all.
find me on Otter.
All right, bye, kids.
Bye.